Welcome to Wisconsin in Focus. I'm Benjamin Yount, the Wisconsin correspondent, once again filling in for Bruce Walker, who is our Great Lakes regional editor. We're taping this here on a Wednesday, the 21st of June, and boy, what a difference a day makes. Probably the biggest story in local government funding in Wisconsin's history happened this week. Governor Evers quickly and rather publicly signed the shared revenue deal. Now, we've talked about shared revenue here on Wisconsin in Focus for weeks, months. It's the plan that's essentially going to share $500 million with local governments, cities, towns, counties. It also will allow the city of Milwaukee and the county of Milwaukee to raise their sales taxes. In exchange for that, Milwaukee and Milwaukee County have some spending restrictions. They're not allowed to spend the money on the HOP, which is the infamous streetcar in the city that Republican lawmakers just detest. They're also not allowed to spend the money on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We'll put a pin in that for a half a second. The idea is to stave off a looming bankruptcy in Milwaukee and Milwaukee County, largely because of their unfunded pension debts. Governor Evers went to Wausau, which is about 2 hours away from Milwaukee, to sign the legislation, and he took a generic victory lap when he did.
Whether it's providing essential services like EMS, police and fire, repairing the streets, expanding affordable housing, ensuring kids and families have clean parks and water, addressing issues like PFAS, as Mayor Rosenberg is doing right here in Wausau, or supporting local libraries and public health today means our local partners might finally be able to make ends meet. To leave our state with a legacy of prosperity, we must fulfill our obligation to fund our communities. The future of our state, our economy, and our workforce depend on that. And yes, that does include ensuring economic solvency, stability, and success for the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. Now let's talk about education, because we are not only providing historic investments in our local communities. I also secured $1 billion in spendable revenue for K-12 schools and education, which means we're finally going to get our schools much needed resources that can be used for our kids in our classrooms across Wisconsin.
That the governor went to Wausau is part of the story. The governor's office says they went to Wausau, which is one of Milwaukee's smaller media markets, because the shared revenue deal impacts the entire state. An awful lot of people in Milwaukee questioned if the governor was proud of this Milwaukee bailout, as it has been labeled by conservatives. One of the reasons that the governor likely moved to Wausau was that in addition to the shared revenue package, the governor quietly signed a new school funding formula. It's going to pump $1 billion more into public schools in the state, but it's also going to share hundreds of millions of dollars with choice schools in Wisconsin, public schools teacher unions, and many public school education advocates are furious with the governor for doing that. They have threatened to say they are furious with that. They pushed the governor to veto the plan. That was Tuesday. On Wednesday, we got the first crack. Milwaukee's Common Council President Jose Perez said thank you for the cash, which will be $16 million a month once Milwaukee implements its new sales tax, but they're going to take a pass on the spending restrictions. Perez said that they are going to double down on their Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. They are preparing to challenge those spending restrictions in court. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos told reporters at the state capitol on Wednesday that is, well, as you would expect.
You know, it's really disappointing because we have literally spent months negotiating in good faith, saying that we were willing to flex on some of the things that were core priorities for us as conservatives. And it seemed like at the time they were willing to flex on things that they thought were important for them to find that common sense consensus. And to now say that they are going to use the very dollars that the state of Wisconsin gave them to sue the state is a really bad sign for future relations. And I certainly hope that they rethink their decision as they try to focus on the good that was in the bill rather than trying to micromanage some of the things they have challenges with, which frankly, every single one of which helps to improve their financial position, which was the whole goal of the bill originally.
It's unclear how this is going to end. You have to remember that Wisconsin now is going to have a liberal majority state Supreme Court, and the idea that this liberal majority court could in some way, shape, or form side with Milwaukee and Milwaukee County is a very real possibility. But it is what Vos said there in the middle, that this is not a good sign for future relations. You can keep up with this story and more over at thecentersquare.com for more stories by, well, me, Benjamin Yod, filling in for Bruce Walker again here on This Wisconsin in Focus. Thank you so much for taking the time and listening, and please don't forget to subscribe.